Hello, my beautiful people. So today I would like to teach you about trauma bonding. What is a trauma bond? Now, there are two types of trauma bonds. The first one is in its name. It's just when two people who have endured, two or more people who have endured some type of trauma, they come together and they bond over it, basically. So it's like, I am a victim of domestic violence, you're a victim of domestic violence, and then we bond. You've gone through this, I've gone through this. Whoa! Weird bonds, right? Now, the trauma bond that I want to talk about today is the one when we attach ourselves to someone who causes you harm, right? This situation is basically characterized by abuse, where the abuser uses manipulation tactics to keep control of the person, right? And let's also remember that abuse is not only physical. Abuse can be emotional, it can be physical, it can be sexual, it can be domestic, it can be financial or cultural. So just because somebody is not beating you does not mean that they are not abusing you. Let's make that very clear, right? Okay. In this type of trauma bonding, there are cycles of neglect, of emotional abuse, of abandonment, violation of boundaries. They're controlling dynamics. The abuser is very, very controlling. They are enabling, or they could be enabling. They shame you, and then they have this push and pull punishment type, and so they're available to you, and then suddenly they're emotionally unavailable. You know what I mean? They give you their love and then they take it away, right? And now these types of bonds, they are very, very intense usually, right? They're very emotionally intense, and this is because they activate our original attachment wounding from childhood. So if you had a parent who was emotionally unavailable to you, a parent who you had a lot of conflict with in your childhood, they were unpredictable with their love, you felt like you needed to walk on eggshells around them, they insulted you, you know what I mean? They gave you love and then they took it away, they kept score of what they did, or they used intimate knowledge of what they knew about you against you. That's why this. When you had that, now you tend to, when in your adulthood, you look for somebody who's like that. That's why they say, girls like without their parents, or who had bad relationships with their dad, they have daddy issues, or people have mommy issues, and it's both women and men. And so in this type of bond, you tend to, it's like in our brains, we tell ourselves, because this did not work out with that parent, it's like you try and replace that parent in your adulthood. But somehow in your head you feel like, okay, I can do this better now that I'm grown. Now I have more control over. You're replacing this person in your life, but ultimately you're just replacing one abuser with another one, right? And then the cycle tends to continue. Now, a lot of this type of bonds, we're usually aware that they're not good. We're usually very aware. It's like, something is not right. I'm not happy. I know that I'm not, but for whatever reason, I cannot leave this person. Why is it that I can't leave? Now, mostly the reasons why that we are attracted, or we find ourselves in these types of relationships and we can't leave, is because in relationships like these, a trauma bond, they're very addictive. They're very addictive. They can be very psychologically addictive and very physically addictive, mostly because of the hormones that your body is constantly producing, right? We live in a generation where everything is, we're always on the move. We're always being stimulated. And in a relationship like this, you're always being stimulated, and it's very unpredictable. Today it's great. They're so loving. Everything is good. And then suddenly, boom, everything is horrible, and you're fighting, and so your body is constantly releasing hormones. It's dopamine, it's cortisol. So you're always on the up and down, and it is very intense. Yeah. And now the problem is, when you're so used to these relationships, which are very dysfunctional, by the way, you tend to get bored when you don't have this drama in your life, which is why a lot of girls like bad boys. And they like the bad boys is because of the emotional unavailability. It's the back and forth, the excitement that doesn't come from a relationship which is stable, which has no drama, which you constantly don't have a roller coaster of emotions. And a lot of people find that, which is healthy, to be boring. Why? Because of trauma bonds. Now, I am guilty of this. I have found myself dating emotionally unavailable men, and the minute that that guy did not want me, that's when I wanted them more, and I would go for them, and I would do everything I could to get that man. And the moment I got him, I was bored. It was about the chase for me. My father has been emotionally unavailable to me since day one. And so I found myself trying to replace him and trying to replace him. And even when I found a good and healthy relationship, it was when the bad happened, that's when it was familiar. I knew that was very familiar to me. And we tend to do that. And this is not only for girls with daddy issues. This happens to men as well. And it could be with a father relationship that was not good, or a mother relationship. You know, mommy issues and daddy issues are not gender specific, to be honest. It could go either way. Now, the stages of trauma bonding. Stages of trauma bonding. Stage 1, trust and dependency. So when you first start dating this person, they are amazing. Everything you want, they do. They're great. And they make sure to form, you know, a trust, and you begin to need them. You begin to depend on them, and suddenly you don't need anybody else. You know, it's just you and them, and they bank on that. And then stage 2 is criticism. They start to criticize small things, which gradually become big things. And you're like, you know, it doesn't sit right with you, but still, it's like, no, you're still paying attention to what they did, the love bombing that they gave you in the beginning, you know? And you're like, no, this person, they're good. They're mostly good. Number 3, gaslighting. I will actually have a video on gaslighting so that I can go in depth about it. But mostly it's they will make you seem like you're crazy. You will have a conversation with them, you'll ask them for something, you'll say something, and then later they'll be like, what are you talking about? They'll make you think you're crazy because they want to distort your reality. And suddenly you're like, am I crazy? Manipulation. Number 4 is resignation. Now, this is the moment when you're voicing how you feel, right? I am frustrated because you keep on doing this. I don't like that you keep on doing this. In this stage, you're trying to set your boundaries because you already know that you don't like what's happening here. I don't like this. But they act like they don't hear you. Honestly, it's like you're talking to a wall. You could be talking to this person and telling them exactly what you need. Tell them why you're frustrated. Tell them what they're doing is wrong. But when you say those things, you're literally, it doesn't even go in one ear or the other. It does not register. You're not talking. It's like, they don't hear you. It's so frustrating. And number 5, loss of self. So now, again, you start to question yourself because of the criticism, of the gaslighting, and because you're tired of this constant fight, of bickering, of saying the same thing over and over, and you're not being heard. You give up. You stop fighting, and they bank on that, right? And you still haven't gotten what it is that you want or what you need, but they bank on the resignation. Now you've given up, and you don't want to be alone, and so you stay, and you're staying in this relationship when you know you're not happy. Number 6 is emotional addiction. Like I mentioned, it's the ups and downs. So this is a cycle, right? So they will do something that upsets you, and then they will love bomb you, and then criticize you. So it's a cycle, up and down, and it's a constant state of frustration, constant state of emotions. It's honestly the most exhausting thing, guys. The most exhausting thing. I just came from a relationship like this, and it was mind-numbing, to be honest, right? And it's so easy to find yourself in this situation, especially because this is very familiar to somebody who has already endured trauma. This to you is what your idea of love is. This, because that's what you have seen, that's what you have grown up in. This is an environment that is familiar, even if you know it's not good, even if you know it's exhausting, even if you don't want to be in it. So the only way to be able to fight this and to stay away from it is to be conscious of it and to unlearn and to say that I do not want this. I am in a stage in my life that I know I don't want this. And with my ex, I constantly told him, I don't want this, right? And so go with that. You have to unlearn these things and be very self-aware of them And slowly, it's a healing process. The way you learned these things, you know, in the beginning is the same way you can unlearn them and rewire your brain, you know. So yeah, it's a lot of introspection, and we have to learn that the problem is not with us. It's what we know. It's what we know. But my mom told me one day, she said, I told her, Mom, when did you get tired of, or, you know, how did you learn how to save? And she told me, because I got tired of being broke. And I will say that in the same instance, is that in such situations, you get into such relationships over and over, and you're dating the same guy and you're dating the same woman, and you're asking yourself, why am I constantly finding myself in this situation? But when you get tired, when you genuinely, you're like, okay, no, I'm not doing this, I'm not gonna do dysfunction anymore, that's when you actively start to work on yourself to fix those things. And you know that even in the dating scene, when somebody starts to exhibit these types of traits, oh, run in the opposite direction. So I'm so glad that I'm finally in a space like that, and I'm very thankful. And I encourage everybody, it is not easy, and you are not the problem, and you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. So baby steps, be kind to yourself, and remember that therapy works. Therapy works. Write it down in a journal, and continue watching these videos, and I hope you will learn something from me, and we can walk this journey together. We can heal together, and finally we will look and find that we are living the lives full of peace and happiness that we need also badly, you know. So thanks for watching. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Keep it loud.